Okay, I think we're live. I don't know who's watching, but anyway, George, let's start. So I'm James Van Brecht at Estella Super Yacht Agency here in Palma de Mallorca, and I'm online with Mr. George Dyke, who is a director of Incargo, which is a Estella sister company operating in many locations worldwide, certainly throughout Spain and Latin America. George is based in Gibraltar. He's also a director of the Chamber of Commerce in Gibraltar. So, George, perhaps you could give a little introduction as to your background and what you do for Incargo there, and your involvement with the Chamber of Commerce, who I'm assuming were quite closely involved with the negotiations that we saw announced yesterday.
Actually, through the Chamber of Commerce, we created a group called the Gibraltar Cross Frontier Group. That entailed the business organizations like the Chamber of Commerce, Small Business Federation, and the unions, three big unions in Gibraltar, plus on the other side of the border in Spain, much the same. You know, the Chamber of Commerce, unions, and small business enterprises, etc. And we created this as about 10 years ago. Actually, it's 11, would be 11 pretty soon. And we were lobbying for this agreement, to have a treaty to have a fluid frontier, which, as many will know, has suffered a lot of delays of people crossing in or out into Gibraltar, and it was affecting the livelihood of many people. Just to say that there's about 15,000 people who enter Gibraltar just to work on a daily basis, and apart from that, it's a bit of a Monaco situation, but with an actual frontier where you've got to, show your passport and ID and all the rest of it. And there's another about 50,000 people coming in, tourists coming in from Spanish mainland on a daily basis as well. So it gets quite busy, and the least you wanted is these issues that we were having at the border, because it was affecting everyone. Sometimes, depending on the government of the day, there were more restrictions and checks and all the rest of it, and it was taking hours. I personally, at one point, was sat in the queue for 7 hours before being able to cross with my car into Spain. So the treaty supposedly is resolving all those issues, and there has been a political agreement on it, which is what was announced a couple of days ago. There's been a lot of hype, but that's the only thing that's happened at the moment. This has to now be transposed into a text for a treaty, has to be ratified by the EU and the British Parliament, and then hopefully we will have a treaty. But at the moment, there are very little details coming through. Mainly, what we know is that Gibraltar will become a Schengen territory, and apart from that, also there will be a transaction tax, which would be more or less equivalent to the VAT in Spain. So they will more or less match the taxes and all the rest of it. So there's the competition is quite good. And basically, at the moment, those are the only details that we have. It's going to still take some time before things are implemented. For example, we know that all the controls of people coming in to Gibraltar, airwise, will be at the airports. There's some arrangement with the Spanish police who do the immigration, and they have to go first through the local immigration, which is Gibraltar immigration, then through the Schengen immigration, which is done by the Spanish National Police.
Frontex, yeah.
No, Frontex.
Okay.
The idea was of bringing Frontex in originally for a period of about 4 years, but then that has been done away with because they managed to resolve, because the main problem was that because the controlling country for the Schengen arrangements, immigration arrangements, was Spain, the responsibility lies with Spain. Gibraltarians didn't like the idea of having boots on the ground, Spanish authorities in Gibraltar. So they managed, because the airport is just, on the border with Spain, they've managed to make arrangements that there will be a common area, and where both the Gibraltar and Spanish authorities will be working together for immigration purposes, etc. And that's going to be resolved. On the seaside, on the arrivals, cruise liners, because the cruise liners, they receive pre-clearance anyway. But with the yachts, what apparently is going to happen is that there will be an immigration officer from the Spanish side attending, and the crew or whatever from the yacht will probably be taken to the airport. It's only 2 minutes away anyway, a bit more than 2 minutes from the marinas, etc. They will be taken to the airport for the clearance if it's required, if there's any visa nationals, for example, visa requiring nationals on board. That is what at the moment has transpired from all this.
So will that, I guess it's too early to say, because obviously the focus is so much on the land border and the movement. I've been through the land border myself only once, but that took about 2 hours, so I can attest to that. So it's understandable, but obviously the bit that we care about from in our industry, of course, is the sea element, the seaside element of it. So I guess it's probably too soon to be trying to dig into detail too much, but if you're talking about clearance and passport stamping, etc., taking place at the airport, obviously some parts of Spain, including in Barcelona, you have to go through an agent. You can't just have crew turning up, and I'm guessing especially with the commercial volume going through, this will become an agency service rather than yachts themselves going directly to that office.
That's correct. Yes, the idea is that the agent will have to organize all these issues. Like I said, it's still early days, and we don't know whether there could be pre-clearance that can be arranged. We don't know what sort of arrangements can be made with visas either, and we just have to wait and see how things develop.
So is there any lobbying or any discussion about a carve out for yachts in order to preserve, because obviously so much of the lifeblood of Gibraltar's economy is related to maritime activity. So has there been any lobbying or suggestion that there will be separate arrangements in terms of VAT regarding fuel or regarding provisioning, or yachts that literally are calling for, or vessels calling for less than, let's say, 24 or 48 hours? Or is it just a case that it's going to be blanket? Is there any discussion about that?
On the refueling side, we understand it won't be affected because it's in transit and all the rest of it. So the fueling side shouldn't be affected. Services.
Sorry, I didn't catch that. In terms of we're talking about effectively VAT, or is it actual VAT? You call it something different?
It's a transaction tax that it's being called. But
which will apply to, let's say, Morrison's, but not to fuel. Is that the idea?
I'll give you an example. For example, if you go to Spain and you buy a TV there, for example, an expensive TV, usually what happens is you claim the VAT back and you pay the duty coming into Gibraltar, which is less than the VAT normally, quite less. That's not going to happen anymore. Now you pay the VAT and you come straight into Gibraltar. Commercially, there will still be customs clearances that have to be affected and all the rest of it. But for example, on the yachts, which the interest will be on the fuel mainly, that apparently is not going to be affected. That's what we've heard up to now. However, it still remains, to be confirmed by the relevant authorities who have been doing the negotiation for 4 years, may I say.
Yeah, so we could then potentially be looking at something that's effectively a free trade zone for the maritime side.
Yes, yes. That's supposed to be continuing in the same way. What the on the shipping side and in the yachting side, what could be affected would be on the crew members that are visa nationals. We don't know how that is going to work yet. At the moment, we've had the crew members arriving through London, for example, which are visa exempt, for example, Filipinos, Indians, what else, boy? I'm not sure. But anyway,
South Africans.
and they didn't need a visa to transit London within 24 hours from the same airport. But that will be changing because Gibraltar will now be a Schengen territory.
Yeah.
However, what we don't know, and this is something that I've been asking for the last 4 years, is information on whether we would be able to get visas for people on arrival here or not. I think it's going to be a difficult one because, not even across the in Algeciras they're able to do it like that. They need some time to be able to provide a visa, but we still don't know what arrangements will be in store for us.
And of course, one of the crucial elements of Gibraltar, one of the purposes it serves is, of course, clearing out of the EU, which I guess falls away because obviously right now we have the TA 18-month grace period, the pre-importation, and of course you would normally then, if you're crossing the pond, especially, you would clear out of the EU in Gibraltar. So is there any thoughts about that? Because that seems like that will fall away.
That's one of the questions that we're putting across the government that still hasn't been answered. But let me remind you, Gibraltar will not be in the EU. It will be an association on Schengen and on the VAT arrangements for commercial stuff coming in and out. So on the other issues, we still don't know how it's going to work. We need to find out, obviously. It's still early days because this was only announced 2 days ago. And but we will be finding out, and we will be providing you further information as and when it shows up.
Yeah. No, I understand. It's sort of a quick reaction. We thought, well, let's ask somebody on the ground as to what is known and what isn't known, because there's going to be a lot of speculation, of course, about the impact. So, okay. I think this is probably all the questions that I have. So what are the timelines we're looking at in terms of implementation so far? And I understand it's a political issue, so it's pretty asking how long is a piece of string. But what are you expecting in terms of actual hard change and further clarification about the things we've discussed?
On the passport controls, we hear that until they've implemented the necessary equipment, the passport scanning equipment at the airport, until that is in place, which can take 9 to 12 months to be installed, apparently, there will still be passport controls at the frontier until such a time. On the transaction tax issue, it could be longer than that. It could be a year or 2 years, because they've got to give time to the commercial entities to adapt their businesses, because Gibraltar might not be that attractive anymore to high street sales as it was perhaps before, because more or less the taxes are going to be just like in Spain, or the prices might be just like in Spain, and that will probably take a bit more. So maybe we're talking about even a year and a half or something like that on that. So that's what we're hearing at the moment.
Okay, and the ongoing discussions about a free trade zone or carve-outs or special arrangements on the maritime side, these are discussions ongoing, or are these things that
Yes,
say,
well,
things?
we still haven't met up with the authorities to discuss those issues, but we should be doing that pretty soon.
Okay, so I guess the overriding message is don't panic. Nothing's going to change overnight.
Oh.
And I guess we'll probably speak again in about 12 months as to when we get some clarity about the hard changes that are coming our way.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. George, thanks for your time. If I have any further questions, or if we receive any leading on from this video, then I'll ping them and then we'll share them in social media, of course, in the usual way.
Forward to keeping you abreast of the situation.
Super.
Okay.
Okay. Have a good weekend. Thanks for your time. Cheers. Bye-bye.